Am I the asshole for sitting on a man's hand after he refused to remove it from the empty seat? Pretty sure I was an asshole here, but we'll see. So, I'm 30, I'm 8 months pregnant. I take public transport to work daily. I'm always exhausted cause I have to work extra time to be able to afford basic necessities. I take the bus to work every day and oftentimes it's packed, but I get lucky enough when decent folks volunteer their seats for me. Now I should mention that I don't use my pregnancy as an excuse to get what I want, but people just offer me their places by themselves, which is kind and sweet. Wednesday. I get on the bus like usual, but this time there's one empty seat. I go to sit, but I find a guy in his business attire sitting there with his hand on the empty seat, sort of like resting it. I say excuse me and ask him to remove his hand so I could sit, but he tells me the seat was taken. I ask by who and he says his hand. NGL. I laughed a little but wasn't feeling well, so I ask him to remove it so I could sit, but he refuses again. Folks start staring. I tell him I'm tired and needed to sit, and he replies saying my pregnancy isn't his problem. I had enough at this point. My legs were burning and my back was hurting, so I go ahead and sit on his hand. He freaks out and tries to remove it quickly while shouting at me. He then starts arguing about how disrespectful I was to do this inappropriate thing, and in public no less. I argue back NGL, but then he gets off after saying I was being inappropriate and disrespectful. Everyone stares at me and I just sit there feeling a bit of shame about what happened. I tell my husband about this incident and he WTF'd the entire time, then says that I did indeed act inappropriately and shouldn't have made this guy uncomfortable by sitting on his hand like that. He tells me I fucked up and this was totally inappropriate despite me saying I was so tired of standing and was in desperate need to sit down. Am I the asshole? ETA several points. Like I said, I do get offered seats from others, so I'm being treated well most of the time, but unfortunately run into some people who don't do that. This guy seemed to be upset about something and then the argument probably made it worse. I could have de-escalated by maybe talking to the driver. However, I'm pretty sure he didn't pay for the seat just to put his hand on it. Who does that? Also, most of the passengers were younger folks that day. I would get a seat from older folks. Not the asshole. Though, I can't believe you stole the seat from his only lover. Not the asshole. I hope you farted. Not the asshole. Seats are for butts, not hands. If you don't want a butt on your hand, keep it on your own seat. Not the asshole. I've been 8 months pregnant on public transportation and I 100% would have done exactly as you did. Woman shrugging seriously, what did he expect? I'd love to see the Am I the asshole post for him. Am I the asshole for not moving my hand, causing a pregnant lady to sit on it? Not the asshole. Your husband is wrong. When I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s I used the public bus system every day and I know this kind of rider. Sometimes they are snobs whose car is in the shop and they are horrified that they have to deal with a gasp stranger sitting next to them. Or they are touch-phobic. Or they think, I call dibs on 2 seats, should be honored on a crowded bus. Good on you for sitting right down and not letting him get away with hogging 2 seats. Everybody on that bus was on your side. So, I do this thing with my cats where I sit down slowly if they're in a space where I need to be, and I say, here comes the butt, and they move. This guy showed less intelligence than my cats. And a lot less compassion. Not the asshole, and also lol. Not the asshole. 1 seat per passenger unless space permits, which it didn't because you as a passenger wanted to sit. He's an entitled asshole and so is your husband. Don't know about you, but when my wife was 8 male pregnant she could give 2 fucks what was appropriate. I backed her all the way and I back you up as well. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for not wanting to drive my niece because she has Tourette's? I'll keep this quick. My niece has Tourette's syndrome, which makes her prone to making a lot of loud noises unexpectedly. I'm a decent driver, a good one, maybe. But I need focus. I don't play music in my car and I don't drive anyone else most of the time because I don't like having conversation when I'm driving. It's just distracting and could be fatal. Just to reiterate, I almost never drive anyone because of that last bit. However, my sister's husband recently passed away and she needs someone who can drive her daughter to school. To be honest, my sister's always been a sour spot for me. She's done a lot of shit to me throughout the years, but I've always had to find it in my heart to forgive her. She's also just rude and entitled 99% of the time. She didn't tell me that my niece has Tourette's, and because I work an intense job where I work a lot. So I didn't know either. Cue me driving her for the first time and she won't stop talking. I'm doing my best to stay focused, but I have to tell her to stop. She does, but 10 minutes later she makes a massive screeching sound which makes me dent my car on a mailbox. I get shocked easily, and even if I know what something is, in the half-second between me hearing it and my body reacting, I can't stop myself from reacting to it. I told my sister I can't drive her daughter to school if that's what she does on a regular basis. I realize she can't stop that, but I need to make sure I'm a safe driver. She's going off on me now because I'm being ableist and cruel. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. But also, if you're scared of even talking to someone because it could be fatal, you might want counseling and driving lessons. No assholes here, but I'm not sure it's safe for you to operate any heavy machinery at all if this is really how you react to noises. A screeching child is not much different from a car honking, and if that can cause you to wreck, you shouldn't be driving until you get some treatment or therapy to get it under control. Good luck to you. ETA. I saw your other comment about your parents' deaths in car wrecks. I am so sorry to hear this, and I'm sure that has traumatized driving and even riding in cars for you. I am so sorry for your loss. I hope you can get some help. It's no fun to be that stressed, and it sounds like you may have PTSD. Cue me driving her for the first time and she won't stop talking. I'm doing my best to stay focused, but I have to tell her to stop. She does, but 10 minutes later she makes a massive screeching sound which makes me dent my car on a mailbox. You're not what I'd call a good driver if her screeching caused you to hit a mailbox. Unexpected sounds happen even if you don't have anyone else in your vehicle. Drivers should have enough self-control to not swerve off the road when startled by a sound. Panic braking I'd understand more. Swerving is incredibly dangerous. You're definitely not the asshole for not wanting to drive her around though. Just try to work on calming your nerves to make driving less dangerous for you. Not the asshole. Your sister won't like you any better if you kill her kid in a collision. NTA. If you can't drive safely with her in the car, you shouldn't be driving with her in the car. End of story. That said, it does sound like you need some serious practice behind the wheel. Distractions happen and you need to be comfortable enough to deal with them as they arise. If you can't drive without crashing because of a loud noise, you have no business driving. You also don't owe your sister any favors. Not the asshole, but you probably shouldn't be driving at all if you can't handle simple distractions. Not the asshole. First table, it's not ableist to not want to be distracted while operating a 2-ton machine at 60 mph, and that it's best that a more defensive driver chauffeurs her around. Second, a person can be an asshole and disabled, they are not mutantly exclusive. Am I the asshole for not removing a tree from my property as my new neighbor demands? I live in my late grandparents' home. I've spent the last few years modernizing it and making it fit my style. There is one thing I've not touched however, and that is the apple tree in the back garden. My grandparents planted it on the day they moved into the house, and it came from my grandfather's family orchard as a sapling, a way of bringing a bit of his family with them. I love the tree, and some of my favorite memories as a child are picking fruit from it or climbing it when I was little. New neighbors recently moved in next door and they keep complaining about the tree, wanting it cut down as it is casting shade into their garden where they want to put a hot tub. None of the tree overhangs onto their property at all, it just sadly cuts off light in that one specific area. I've apologized but told them I won't be cutting it down and suggested they put their hot tub somewhere else in the garden as it's a big space. I'd even planned to try and smooth things over when it grows fruit this year by bringing them a bag of fresh apples. They are pissed off at me and complaining about how it's just a tree and it's not a big deal to cut it down. The husband has also been threatening to get lawyers involved to force me to cut it down. I'll admit that pissed me off and killed any goodwill I had towards them or desire to smooth things over. I've told them to do whatever the fuck they want but warned them I've got a camera in my back garden, so if they mess with my tree I'll know. I set this up a few years ago due to local kids stealing all the apples. I don't mind giving apples away to people as it grows plenty, but I have an issue with people helping themselves. I know it's just a tree and it's perhaps silly to be so enraged by their demands and threats, but it has sentimental value to me. Is it really that unreasonable for me to not care that it casts some shade into their garden? Edit. I've also explained the sentimental value this tree has, but they don't care. See what the big deal is about a tree. Not the asshole that is a part of your property that you love and cherish. And they knew the tree was there when they moved in, so clearly it wasn't a deal breaker for them. You can't always be a people pleaser. Protect your peace and protect your tree. Not the asshole. Not at all. I'd watch out for these people. It takes pushy people to move into a neighborhood and go to the house of someone who has lived there for years and demand that person cut down an apple tree grown from a family orchard. Totally not the asshole. And do a little reading about tree law. Yes. Disputes about trees are common enough that a body of law has developed around the issue. If they damage or cut down a tree on your property without your consent, that could be a very costly mistake for them. Get rid of the old fruit tree that's also a family heirloom of sorts so that we can build a hot tub. Jesus, you can't buy class. Not the asshole. Make sure you are keeping records. Cease and desist letter issued. Sounds like a them problem. Please take some effort to collect seeds and cuttings of this tree. I had a friend in a similar dispute regarding a tree on their property that irked the neighbors. The neighbors deliberately poisoned their tree. And because they didn't document anything, they lost a beautiful 200-year-old tree. Not the asshole. But keep in mind that apple trees have a finite lifespan. Best to take cuttings now and get a few saplings started to replace the old Grand Dame. Bonus points if you plant it close to the property line. Not the asshole if the tree is on your property and it's healthy and you maintain it, it doesn't need to be cut down. Let them get lawyers, it's a waste of their money and your time. For your own protection, have the tree evaluated by a tree surgeon so you have a report that verifies it's a healthy tree. Trees are important, more important than hot tubs, protect your tree. Not the asshole. What entitled neighbors. Am I the asshole for refusing to participate in a family wedding tradition even though my fiancé wants to? My fiancé's family have a tradition where on the wedding night the groom cuts the bride out of her dress. They even have a special knife they use to do it, and the next day everybody makes a big deal about the cut-up dress. I told my fiancé I don't want to do it, but he said he wants to and that it's the only tradition he isn't willing to budge on. There are other traditions he's agreed to scrap, but he said this one is harmless and it's important to him that we keep some of their traditions. He and his family are upset with me since they feel like I'm erasing so many of their important traditions, and since my fiancé really wants to keep this one, they feel like I should compromise. Am I the asshole? Info. What culture is this tradition from? And may I ask what else he wanted at the wedding that was tradition? NTA. That's the dumbest shit I've heard today. He wants to ruin an expensive dress and his whole family is pressing the issue? Fuck no. If he's dead set on it, buy a thrift store gown for him to cut up. Edit to add. How the fuck did this tradition get started? What poor woman had to be surprised on her wedding night by her groom coming at her with a knife? And why have the other women gone along with it? That's some power trip BS. Huge no from me. Not the asshole. It isn't even about the dress. Cutting the bride out of her clothing has rapey stolen bride, conquest vibes. Showing the cut dress the same, like showing bloody sheets as proof of virginity. This is the only thing we have to judge, but this one thing makes it seem his family devalues women. He can't help that his family sucks, but he shouldn't support it and pressure you to conform. The situation is gross and I'd be rethinking the whole thing, unless it's a serious one-off and they are all fantastic people in your other experiences. NTA. Is this the same idea as a groom holding up the blood-stained bedsheets to prove the bride was a virgin? Got as far as cuts the bride out of her dress, and had to stop because my stomach was in knots. His family is celebrating rape culture. Full stop. There is no other way to describe this action. Forcefully removing the clothes of a woman for what reason? Sex. How is that not insinuating rape? That's a hard fucking no, and if he insists, I'd be reconsidering marrying him. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. His family's tradition seems rooted in misogyny. Are you sure you want to marry into a family where this seems to be a thing and where what you want doesn't count? Not the asshole, but warning he's going to cut your dress anyway with or without your permission. Make it clear that if he even thinks about it you won't be consummating your marriage and will be getting an annulment the next day. If I'm honest, I can't see you enjoying your wedding if you're stressed about that all day. Info. What are the other traditions you nixed? I would not want my dress destroyed either, and the compromise here is to trade the dress thing for one of these other traditions, provided they aren't that egregious. Edit. After hearing of the other traditions, not the asshole and op really needs to reconsider the relationship.